Yeah, picking up the camera is not going to affect it. So, yeah. So, I've got to do guys listen to it. Yeah.
You have no idea how to use this. I'm not sure why it's not doing anything.
Okay.
Wash it out of the car.
This is great. That means you can do interviews with the people. Take it. You have a phone? What is it?
I think it's 1,000 other piece.
Any phone? Yeah. Probably in the kitchen.
Might be. I think it's upstairs in Merchants.
Let's see what it looks like. Okay.
The days shortly. Please get your seats so we can away. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, can I ask a quick favor? Since entrepreneurship is all about collaboration, even if it may not be what you want to do, we have people trickling in. We have lots of empty seats here in the middle, and in about 5 minutes, people might be climbing over you, and you will both be frustrated with each other. So if you are sitting, particularly in this middle section, there's an open seat next to you. Can you scoot over until there is no open seat next to you? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it will get worse before it gets better. And we're going to have a great day. Matt. Yeah, Jerry.
I asked him the same question.
So since you can, I mean, it's just a part of the rating thing. Yeah. Well, you know what? I know nothing about it, you know, other than somebody told me that he may be in color. That's all, you know. And you know, okay. Yeah, I've been following the legislature. But as you probably remember, there's Mr. Hill. I think. Right now. It's really strange. Everybody's in the show.
It's working.
I'm not a musician. My name is Tim Williamson. I'm one of the co-founders of Guiding Village, and I would love to welcome you guys to a very special event here in New Orleans. We are the last stop of the Rise to the Rest road trip tour by Steve Pace and Gene Pace, where they are going around the country looking at the emerging entrepreneurial communities. And I will tell you this, I heard, over here they say this is the best one you've ever seen. Of course. So you guys know, basically the key messages we talk about in New Orleans is an authentic collaborative ecosystem. We had a chance to meet the key leaders in New Orleans. Secondarily, how we're using entrepreneurship to solve social challenges, water and education. Importantly, diversity is important to us. I saw that today. They saw the whole hype of the entrepreneurial movement. They saw the companies that are raising money, creating jobs, and more importantly, creating new wealth in this community. And then we talk about how they're mentoring back the next generation of the new entrepreneurs. We hosted the first ever in the world entrepreneur pitch on a Mayfield float. And we actually had 8 companies pitching on a Mayfield float, so we're basically asking the world's culture, we're using it in a new way. They ended with to talk about how are the future of the world. So today we're excited to now bring together one of the great world sons, Walter Isaacson and Steve Pace, to talk about entrepreneurship innovation. But before that, I introduce them, we'll bring them up. I'd love to introduce Irvin Mayfield. And Irvin is one of my long-term friends. I remember, you guys know he's a Grammy Award-winning musician. He is that prodigy musician of New Orleans coming out, but I think of him as an entrepreneur. About 12 years ago, he came to me and said, Tim, about this idea about this jazz market. Why does New Orleans not have a place for jazz? How can we not have a home for jazz? And now you're sitting into the first place for jazz in New Orleans on O.C. Haley. To me, just inspires me what Irvin and Ron have done to create a vision of something that will be here for generations to come. So with that, I'd love to introduce my friend Irvin Mayfield. Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? There we go. Thank you guys for being here and welcome to the first Pace for Jazz in the city of New Orleans. This tour is a part of a national effort to shine a spotlight on one of the most important trends shaping the United States economy moving forward. A confluence of factors ranging from technological innovation to public policy reforms that are making it easier for high-growth startups to launch and create jobs in cities and towns nationwide, not just in Silicon Valley. We are proud to host the final stop of this 1,200-mile, 5-city Rise to the Rest tour at the People's Health of New Orleans Jazz. Today, they are joined by a group of entrepreneurs and UP Global as presenting partners with support from both new and previous tour partners, including Salesforce for Startups, Engine, Tech Cocktail, Startup Grind, Village Capital, and Seed Here Studio. All quite interesting names. To kick off this incredible event, I'm honored to introduce today's Fireside Chat. Steve Pace, our host for today's event, is founder and partner of Revolution Growth, as well as one of America's best-known and most accomplished entrepreneurs and a pioneer in making the internet part of everyday life. As chairman and CEO of Revolution, a DC-based investment firm he co-founded in 2005, Steve partners with visionary entrepreneurs to build significant, built-to-last new businesses. The mission is to establish Revolution as the premier firm outside of Silicon Valley. His entrepreneurial career began in 1985 when he co-founded American Online. Under Steve's leadership, AOL became the world's largest and most valuable internet company, driving the worldwide adoption of a medium that has transformed business and society. AOL was the first internet company to go public and among the best performing stocks of the 90s, delivering a 11,616% return to shareholders. In 2000, Steve negotiated the largest merger in business history, bringing together AOL Time Warner in a transaction that gave AOL shareholders a majority stake in the combined company. Steve's passion for helping entrepreneurs remains his driving force. He was the founding chair of Startup America Partnership
an effort launched at the White House to accelerate high-growth entrepreneurship throughout the nation. In 2013, the Startup America Partnership joined forces with the Startup Weekend to create Global, which Steve now chairs. He is also a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship and was a member of President Obama's Council on Jobs and Competitiveness, where he chaired the subcommittee on entrepreneurship. Steve has been a leading voice in shaping government policy on issues related to entrepreneurship, working across the aisle to advance public policies that expand access to capital and talent. He is also the chairman of the Case Foundation, which he established with his wife Jean in 1997. Together, the Cases have invested in hundreds of organizations, initiatives, and partnerships with a focus on leveraging the internet and entrepreneurial approaches to strengthen the social sector. In 2010, Steve and Jean joined the Giving Pledge and publicly reaffirmed their commitment to give away the majority of their wealth to philanthropic causes. He was born and raised in Hawaii and remains active to his home state, where we heard he's a New Orleans Saints fan, and has lived in the DC area for more than 25 years. And now my friend, Walter Isaacson. Isaacson is the president and CEO of the Aspen Institute, a nonpartisan educational and policy studies institute based in DC. He has been chairman and CEO of CNN and the editor of Time magazine. His most recent book, The Innovators, How a Group of Hackers, Geniuses, and Geeks Created the Digital Revolution, is a biographical tale of the people who invented the computer, internet, and other great innovations of our time. He is the author of Steve Jobs, Einstein, His Life and Universe, Benjamin Franklin, An American Life, and Kissinger, a biography, and co-author of The Wise Men, 6 Friends in the World They Made. A New Orleans native, as well as the second Saints fan comes to the stage. Isaacson is a graduate of Harvard College and of Pembroke College from Oxford University, where he was a Girl Scout. He began his career at the Sunday Times of London and then the New Orleans Times Picayune / States Idol. He joined Time in 1978 and served as a political correspondent, national editor, and editor of news media before becoming the magazine's 14th editor in 1996. He became chairman and CEO of CNN in 2001, and then president and CEO of the Aspen Institute in 2003. Isaacson is chair emeritus of Teach for America. He was appointed by President Obama and confirmed by the Senate to serve as the chairman of the Broadcasting Board of Governors, which oversees Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, and other international broadcasts in the United States, a position he held until 2012. He is vice chair of Partners for a New Beginning, a public-private group tasked with forging ties between the United States and the Muslim world. He is on the board of United Airlines, Tulane University, and the overseer of Harvard University. From 2005 to 2007, after Hurricane Katrina, he was the vice chair of the Louisiana Recovery Authority. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our 2 big New Orleans Saints fans, Steve Case and Oretha.
Which is before we do Irvin Schubach, I forgot to come out. I had to come out. And Irvin will be playing at the club, the Playhouse on Wednesday night, and he'll be playing here tonight. So,
Shameless plug. Shameless plug. Thank you.
Welcome to all of Steve. And thank you. Thank you. Good to be back. So tell us why you did Rise of the Rest.
Well, the starting point is for the last 4 or 5 years, I've worked on a number of things, some on the policy front in DC, some on the kind of advocacy side and mobilizing side to the chairman organization that runs things like Startup Weekends. And I really realized a few years ago that entrepreneurs help build this country, help build from essentially a startup 250 years ago to now the leader of the free world. You know, first the agricultural revolution, then the industrial revolution, more recently the technology revolution. And we're going to continue to be the most innovative entrepreneurial nation. We need to double down on entrepreneurs, and we need to do that all across the country, not just in a few places. Last year, 75% of venture capital went went to 3 states, California, New York, and Massachusetts. The other 47 states, including here, fought over the other 25%. I just don't think that's right. So we're trying to shine a spotlight on what's happening in places like New Orleans and better understand the dynamics here and see what we can learn, but also how we can then tell the story around the nation, indeed around the world, with the hope that more people will be paying attention to New Orleans as a startup city, not just a party city, and that will attract more capital. More investors in this area will start focusing on entrepreneurs, and more investors in other places, including California, New York, will get on planes to visit New Orleans to meet with some of the entrepreneurs. And today we know dozens and dozens, and it's been fabulous. And the excitement and possibility here it is clear. So we just want to make sure the entrepreneurs who want to start companies here and be part of the next 300 years for New Orleans have the attention of the world and also have the resources, particularly the capital, to be able to do that.
To talk about your biography for a second, since I'm a biographer, you were at Procter & Gamble and Pepsi, I think, a few others, in the middle of America, working for big companies, and you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and you were not on either the coast then, you were working there. Tell us about how you became an entrepreneur then, and you eventually got to AOL being started, and what you learned from that would be useful for people here to know.
Well, the backstory is actually I grew up in Hawaii and did some sort of entrepreneurial things when I was a kid. None of them were particularly successful, but I love doing them, and probably about making money, but also about trying new things and just exploring the art of the possible. And the college on the East Coast, and then when I graduated, actually I was fascinated with the idea of the internet. I actually read a book by Alvin Toffler while in college called The Third Way, and I talked about the electronic frontier and how someday everybody would get connected. And this is now 35 years ago, and nobody was connected. Nobody had PCs at the time. So I just read that and was mesmerized by it and said, that's going to happen. I want to be part of making that happen. But when I graduated, there really wasn't a startup scene at the time. It was the path was more to go to the kind of large traditional companies, and there really wasn't a platform in terms of the internet. It still was illegal actually to connect to the internet back then because it was limited to non-commercial use. So I did work for Procter & Gamble for a couple of years and PepsiCo, all the while trying to figure out a way to get into this world. And finally, in 1983, moved to DC, joined a company that was doing something kind of related, more focused on game machines, because as I said, most people didn't have PCs, and that frankly, that company failed. So, but two of the people I met, and I went off and started what became AOL 40 years ago this summer, in 1985. So it's sort of a circuitous journey. And now I would say, ultimately AOL was a great success story. It actually took us a decade before we really got traction. So one of the lessons I learned was perseverance. If you really want to change the world, maybe you'll get lucky and it'll happen overnight. For the most part, it will be a slog over 10 plus years. And you need perseverance. You need people that really share your vision, because entrepreneurship is a team sport, not just about the entrepreneurs, but also about the team. And you need passion, because there are difficult times. There's many times that we ran out of money, had to lay people off. Many times friends and family, parents would say, like, why are you doing this? It doesn't seem to be working. So some mix of perseverance and people and passion were three of the takeaways I had in terms of.
Well, let's take that collaboration teamwork thing. It was an odd team that formed America Online. There's Bill von Meister, who may have destroyed more companies than you've ever even dreamed of investing in. But he always started things off. It was Jim Kinsey, who was, I think, a Marine, or at least a Special Forces guy, who knew how to drive things. And you, as a marketing visionary, you put different people with different talents together. How does that work?
Also, Mark Sarah on technology. Unfortunately, Walter knows too much about this, because he wrote his book recently called The Innovators, and one of the chapters was on the story. So it's always scary having somebody interview who actually knows what he's talking about. It's much better if you can just ask the good question. I think it was an interesting mix of skills. I think that, again, is critical in terms of why I think entrepreneurship is a team sport. You see that in sports, the same true. You have to have a team with a variety of different skills. Some playing offense, some playing defense. Some who are good at this, some who are good at that. So if it's all people that have a similar perspective, look at things in a similar way, or all are similarly situated in terms of all being this or all being that from a diversity standpoint, you're not going to have the mix of skills, the mix of perspectives necessary to be successful. So we had an interesting mix of people at the beginning, and went from a few people to a few dozen people, a few hundred people, a few thousand people. And as it grew, it got harder, obviously, to manage that growth and kind of preserve a culture around pioneering and innovation and so forth. But the people aspect, whether it be the early days or the kind of hyper-growth days, was really the main event. You have the right people, almost anything is possible. If you don't have the right people, I'd say nothing is possible. So it really is getting the right people on the bus in the right seats, rowing together and moving together, and focused on the right priorities to really accomplish it.
You mentioned the diversity that was necessary, and Dean was talking about that earlier today, that one of the things that you all are doing is an inclusive entrepreneurship. One of the things I think about New Orleans is creativity, is the fact that it comes from a whole mix of people for almost 300 years now that have lived together, thus creating jazz and the architecture and the food and everything else, because you have a diversity. And it's nice to look out at the diversity of faces, because so many times I've been at these meetings and it's all white guys. How do you increase the diversity?
I think that's a fair point. And I mentioned that the venture capital, 75% goes to those 3 states. Also, about 75% does go to the white guys. And so we're not really kind of leveling the playing field in terms of giving everybody a shot. And part of it is about the regional leveling the playing field, which is why the Rise of Rest is important. But partly is trying to not just encourage more diversity, but this inclusive approach to entrepreneurship and figure out ways. And we've seen some things here today that were really quite encouraging on that front. I think some of it may go back to what you were saying. And it's hard to really get a sense of a city in a day. Obviously, we've been here a bunch of times, but based on what we've seen, I think there's several things that do seem special. And then this is the 14th stop on this road trip. Hopefully we save the best for last. We'll see that in the pitch competition shortly. And each is a little bit different in terms of sort of the dynamic and what's happening. But so far, it seems to me one of the things that really is special and unique about this, and you said it well, is over the last 297 years, New Orleans really has been a gathering place that really has focused on building a sense of community, building, like Mardi Gras, some rhythms and rituals that really are ways to connect people. And as the startup community, led by Tim and others, has really developed and accelerated over the last 15 years or so, there's a recognition that you need to build that startup culture on the back of this broader New Orleans history and legacy and culture, and things like the New Orleans Entrepreneur Week are scheduled in a certain way, and trying to invite a lot of voices is part of it. So I think this idea of community, most places around the country, frankly, struggle to get that right. They have different pockets doing different things. It's hard to knit them together. The main message when I'm traveling around is to encourage communities to kind of do more of that. You've got that kind of going in. A second is this idea of inclusiveness, and some of it's attributed to the Mardi Gras and other things where kind of everybody is welcome, and building on that. I know there's work to be done there, but it feels like that's a priority here. And the third is, and again, this is sort of the Katrina obviously was a terrible tragedy. Watching it, for Washington D.C., it was horrifying. But instead of being saddled with that as just a problem, it seems like New Orleans sees that as an opportunity to do obviously a lot of work on this in terms of rethinking, the school system, and doing a lot of kind of fresh thinking, because there was, something that was, was not desired, obviously, that almost became this blank slate to architect the New Orleans for the next 300 years. And some of the things that we focused on there, led by TFA and others around education, how do you use technology to reinvent, reimagine, revolutionize education, are striking. I think New Orleans has an opportunity to be one of the ed-tech capitals in the country. There's a lot of focus on trying to create companies that have kind of social impact, social enterprise, impact investing. And we've heard about some things in energy, we've heard about some things in water. A third is obviously food is part of New Orleans culture. It's well regarded all around the world. It's interesting, innovations happening, many we saw today in the food sector, as well as in health and in digital media and other things. It's a fairly diverse mix of things. But what is unique to me, so far, is this mix of community really at the heart of it. And entrepreneur, actually, I think Tim said it, and then several people reiterated this morning, that if you're an entrepreneur here, you think of New Orleans first and your startup second. That's remarkable. But I've heard that from not just like you don't care about your startup, you don't care about your employees, you don't care about your customers, you don't care about your investors. It's more playing the long game and believing that if you're successful in raising, you know, the overall infrastructure, and you can attract more talent, you can attract more capital, you can attract more partnerships, and so forth, everything will get all the votes, and ultimately is in the best interest of your startup. But it's a remarkable statement that, again, I think is unique, and everybody here should feel great about this notion of it's not just about me, it's not just about my startup, it's about us, and it's about our community. If you can build on that, about keeping moving down the path of being more inclusive and trying to figure out the areas where you really can differentiate, I think New Orleans is poised to really emerge as one of the great kind of startup cities in the country, maybe even in the world.
You just talked about impact investment as well as entrepreneurship that has a social focus. We were talking earlier, one of the people who worked with you, that's sort of different from Silicon Valley, where they're in it for themselves and going public or having an exit strategy, rather than saying, I want to have a social impact. How do you instill that notion that, to quote Benjamin Franklin, you can do well by doing good?
Well, you said it perfectly, and you're obviously, as a historian, a biographer of so many people, understand that sometimes the future, it does build on the past, and so it learns from the past. And again, I want to be clear, but Silicon Valley, I love Silicon Valley. I'm proud of Silicon Valley. I think it will continue to be the envy of the world. We'll continue to generate all kinds of great companies. I just want the story of American entrepreneurship to be told in a broader context, and the story of entrepreneurs in New Orleans, other places, to be told as well. But there is a little bit of a bias there, and there's nothing wrong, obviously, about I'm an investor too, and I make investments that want to be successful, when I have generate returns. But maybe sometimes it's too narrowly focused on that, and also sometimes too narrowly focused on quick wins, short-term wins, more of a built-to-flip mentality. Take it up to a certain stage and sell it off, as opposed to more of a built-to-last mentality. I think the perspective that some of these regions we visited on, by the rest who are including here, it seems to have a little bit longer-term view and a little bit more of a community-inclusive kind of view. So I think that dynamic does exist. I'm pretty optimistic, and Jane running our Case Foundation's made it a priority for us to really try to shine a spotlight on things like impact investing and social enterprise. And I think there is a growing interest in the sector. There's a lot of things to point to there. And there also is a growing sense of people, particularly younger people, that they don't want to just join a company where the focus is just profit. They do want to join a company where there is profit, there is opportunity, but there's also purpose. And I think New Orleans is a good example of that. I guess part of why EdTech is really developing nicely here, because people were drawn here in part because they wanted to change education and have better schools in New Orleans, and did that for a while, and then said, there's some other things maybe I could focus on through the prism of starting a company that maybe will help these schools I care about, and maybe help other schools as well. Why don't I build a company? And I think there has been a shift I've seen even in the last kind of 50 years or so, and even in places like Washington, D.C., where I live. Part of it, 50 years ago, if you wanted to change the world, the sense was you maybe go to government, you move to run for office and have and do that, and some still do that and appreciate anybody willing to do that. 25 years ago, maybe if you want to change the world and start a nonprofit like TFA or others. And now the sense, and again, both of those are important and hopefully will continue. But the third way to change the world is through the prism of the startup. And your book on Steve Jobs, or the book on the Innovators, I think really highlight that. So why don't I switch gears in terms of because you always get to ask the questions and I have a microphone too. And what to you are the lessons from both Steve Jobs and the Innovators? And by the way, I'm sure most of you read it. between these things. He sold millions of copies. He really has inspired entrepreneurs. And I have heard from many people this notion that, you know, that maybe somebody like Steve Jobs has changed the world more than other people. I don't want to, you know, the impact he's had in terms of the change he's ushered in has had a profound impact on our life. But what was some of the lessons in writing that book and talking about that book that you think are applicable to what's happening to entrepreneurs in New Orleans and more broadly as far as the rest?
Well, I think you're right that Steve Jobs, besides creating the most valuable company on the planet, impacted people's lives, you know, more than most people say want to go into government or whatever. He changed the publishing industry, the music industry. He empowered people by allowing them to, you know, create and express their own ideas. You know, change, you know, digital animation, retail stores. So you can have a real impact. And he did not have the world's greatest social conscience, meaning he was not a philanthropist or anything like that. But when I asked him about it, he was, look, if you want to change education, the iPad is going to change education and transform the textbook industry more than all the donations I will tell you, which had a major corporation he thought it, you know, was riding on his philanthropy, even though when you want to get Bill Gates mad, but he said that'll have more effect than what these other people are doing. So I think, you know, you're right about that. And when I asked him which of these products he was most proud of creating, you know, the iPad, iPhone, Mac, whatever, he said, no, it's hard to create a good product, but even harder to create a team, a company that will continue to make good products instead of trying to just flip it and sell out as soon as you have a product. And so he said it was a teamwork and the collaboration. And if you look at the original Macintosh days when it was 30 engineers under the pirate flag in Cupertino doing the first Mac, or you look when Steve died in 2011, the team he left behind, Tim Cook, Johnny Ive, Phil Schiller. It is a great team, so that collaboration was something. And then the third thing I learned both from the Innovators and Steve Jobs, and this is important for New Orleans, I think, is that the first wave is always about engineering and technology. But the real value comes when you connect the arts to the sciences, when you connect the humanities to engineering. The engineering is important, but after a while, the creative industries, the humanities, the things that touch our soul, and that's even why the iPod is great. It's not because it was a beautiful design, but because it put 1,000 songs in your pocket and empowered you. And you're looking at the rise of the rest when you go around on that tricked out bus you had that, you know, says the rise of the rest tour. And you go into cities like Austin and New Orleans and Charleston. These are places with deep, long-standing artistic and creative cultures. And I think that's why they're starting to rise, because the connection of creativity to technology is the next wave of the revolution.
And New Orleans, growing up here, from some of the discussion I've heard, it seemed like a lot of, which is sad, but it's apparently true, a lot of parents 50 years ago were saying to their kids, you need to move away, to find opportunity. You're not going to find it here. And frankly, you go out to Hawaii, there's been some of that as well. So you're not going to find a real opportunity to stay here. So the parents prefer to stay, particularly in a place like Hawaii or New Orleans, where there's a strong kind of culture around family and or community and so forth. The sense was, I gotta let you go. You gotta fly away because otherwise you'll be held back. But it seems to me, what I've heard, that in the last decade or so that has changed. What wasn't true 50 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an example of it, of somebody who grew up here and then moved away because there were more opportunities. Moved to New York or someplace like that. And we always had a brain drain, especially through the 50s and 60s. We had a very bad period in New Orleans, 50s, 60s, early 70s, in which racial issues were bad, the government was bad, there was a establishment elite of New Orleans that controlled a few banks and businesses, but they were not very inclusive. You had a sort of mentality that were not all linked together. One thing the hurricane did was you know, when the levees broke, the city flooded, you realize, oh, I get it, we're all in the same boat. And then people came in to help after the storm. Right after the storm, I went to the Sheraton on Canal Street for Teach for America. Some of y'all were probably there. I see a lot of former Corps members. And there were 250 Corps members in the city of New Orleans, and there was no school system. So we said, okay, you go to Houston, Baton Rouge, we'll send you elsewhere. Or if you want, you can stay in New Orleans, but you're not going to be paid for a while because there's no job in school. They're going to come back to probably January. Out of the 250 Corps members at that meeting, 250 decided to stay in New Orleans. By next year, there were 500 Corps members and former Corps members who would come back to help reinvent the school system. So the hurricane and some of the things became, weirdly enough, a brain magnet as opposed to a brain drain. Also, I mean, applications of Tulane doubled. It became the Tulane was supposed to serve a city being rebuilt. And as Scott Callan, the president, said, I think we're getting a few too many over testosterone people who like floods and crises. But it was good. There was a sense that if you wanted to be somewhere, you had to be in New Orleans after the storm. Walker Percy, the great novelist, always said that, right? And the hurricane is when everybody feels the best when you pull together. But then the malaise hits in. The Katrina may have been an exception to that. It's been 9 years and 4 months, and the malaise still hasn't kicked in. And you see this sort of new wave of people who have come in, and I think revitalized the city.
One thing, when you're saying that, it reminded me of in terms of the first stop on our tour, then we also open up the questions, so people should think about what the questions you have. We started in Detroit, and the interesting thing when we were in Detroit was it dawned on me that 67 years ago, Detroit was Silicon Valley. It was the most exciting, innovative, entrepreneurial city in the country, I'd argue in the world. Because at the time, the automobile was a technology that was something everybody was excited by. And as a result, the growth of the automobile industry led to this whole growth of thousands of companies that were part of the supply chain, led to the growth of and a lot of influx of talent, which led to the creation of schools and houses being built, libraries getting built, and churches getting built, and all kinds of things getting built. And Detroit was rocking and rolling. It was a unbelievable kind of hyper growth situation. But then, I guess a little bit like New Orleans, Detroit kind of lost its way. And in its case, it kind of lost its entrepreneurial motive in a world that was quickly globalizing and getting more competitive. In the last 50 years, Detroit has lost 60% of its population, and a couple of years ago went bankrupt. And it was Silicon Valley. When Detroit was hot 67 years ago, Silicon Valley was like fortress. And so Detroit rose on the back of innovation, entrepreneurship, fell when it lost its way. Now it's actually fighting its way back. Some really interesting things we saw in Detroit. But that's just a reminder that it's the rise, fall, hopefully rebirth of Detroit, or some of the challenges that New Orleans faced. And the mayor at lunch, he was talking about very articulately that we kind of look at it sort of like this lost half century, where for a variety of reasons, we don't have to spend all our time debating why, because we want to focus on moving forward, not just kind of debating the past. For a variety of reasons, there was a bunch of decades there that at best were neutral, probably were reverse, and similarly, 40–50% of people did leave because there was this brain drain, because there wasn't a sense of opportunity. That should be a both those stories be pretty vivid reminder to us the role that innovation plays, the role of entrepreneurship plays, the role that talent plays. And if we're going to remain, going back to your first question, we're going to remain the most innovative entrepreneurial nation in the world, I think it's within our grasp. We've got to, we take this more seriously. We've got to double down on our entrepreneurs. We've got to make sure entrepreneurs do have access to, capital. We've got to make sure that we're developing talent, attracting talent. That's why immigration reform is so important. We've got to make sure that the regulatory environment is right. We also have to make sure we're leveling the playing field, whether it be leveling the playing field so entrepreneurs in New Orleans have a shot, just like entrepreneurs in San Francisco, we're leveling the playing field so women, African Americans, Latinos feel like they have a shot too. Really, kind of preaching about this as I traveled around in Charleston, which recently was in the news because of North Charleston, or last year was in St. Louis, which at the time was in the news for Ferguson or live in Washington D.C. and tomorrow morning we'll be in Baltimore. There are really complicated issues that are going on there, and I'm not expert for sure in any of them, but I do think one of the parts of that is there are people in these communities that don't have a sense of hope and opportunity, do not feel that they feel left out. The opportunity gap has grown. And part of our challenge as a nation and part of our challenge in a place like New Orleans is how do you include more people? As I said at the beginning, New Orleans actually has a model there that others can learn from, and the community model others can learn from. So I think you're surprisingly, as a city, surprisingly well positioned for what I think will be the next wave of company creation.
The economic, political, and moral issue of our time is how to make prosperity inclusive now that we're coming at it. I know Michael Smith is back there, used to work for your foundation, now runs My Brother's Keeper out of the White House. But that's got to be the focus for all of us, which is inclusivity that you talked about. Make sure everybody feels included in a new economy. Whether it was Detroit, I mean, part of the problem was the fault of the oil industry, but part of the problem was a city that had been inclusive became an enclave city. Same with Baltimore, same with Ferguson, and you look out that door right there. When I was growing up, it was Dryden Street. Dryden Street was a great main street with a whole lot of businesses. It was the main street for the African-American community. It's now Oretha C. Haley Boulevard. When Oretha Castle was growing up here, there was not suddenly the sense of inclusiveness that New Orleans had. And Oretha Castle came from a great, distinguished old New Orleans family, but as an African-American, during that period, from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, that street became more segregated and less inclusive. And that is what New Orleans is trying to get over, but it's also what Baltimore is trying to get over, and St. Louis is trying to get over. And when we talk about the rise of the rest, it's so good that Gene and you have both made inclusivity the key word.
All right, we open up some questions. Over here in the middle.
Hi, my name is Lola Taylor. I just happened upon this, and you're talking about inclusivity. For many years, I worked with the International Foundation, and it's an organization that puts on the national prayer breakfast. I ran the program in DC. And one of the things you're talking about inclusivity, we try to do a lot of things with the kids in the inner city, but also often a lot of people coming in to help. They came in with their ideas and trying to put their ideas on community, listening to the community. I don't know what active efforts are being made to change a lot of that, and I still see that happening whenever I travel around the country, and actually on holiday. I still see a lot of people coming in, and instead of listening to the kids in the community, listening to the people and trying to find a way of actually giving them real marketable job skills instead of an up-to-date program or something like this that in the school or elementary program, they're back to where they started from. I mean, I'm looking at programs that have been there for a number of years, and we've got, one or two here and there who graduate who go off to Harvard with MIT, but I don't know what you can offer to kind of break that cycle.
We have a former chairman of Teach for America here.
Well, we know simple things that we can do as a nation that make things work, which is you can say that every kid in America who attended school and did well enough gets a summer job. And people in the city could rally together, people in the cities around the country, and people in this country could rally together and say the companies, the nonprofits, and the faith-based community, we're gonna make sure every kid has a summer job. Secondly, make sure you have a great after-school program. Third, make sure you have a mentor somewhere. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Boys and girls clubs are perfect. And as well as big brother, big sister. You should say, we as a nation, we should make it absolutely clear that every kid enters third grade knowing how to read. These are not complicated goals. I know you're right, we have to listen to the kids in the community, we have to figure out what works. Listening helps you figure out what works. But we need a national commitment to a few things that we all start off with a new opportunity.
Other questions?
Yeah, this is Brian. Brian, I'm in the group. This is in DC, so I have a support question. Here's the first part. We have some trouble with the technology here. Here's my first question. We talk a lot about access to capital, impact investing, and we talk about capital and impact investing. And you said 75% of the venture capital firms are in 3 states that aren't here. My concern is that while the entrepreneurial energy is here, that venture capital infrastructure is not. And there are only 2 SBIC in the state of Louisiana, and one of them won't invest in a company until it has $10 million in revenue. There are 24 in North Carolina, 55 in New York, all around the country. Apple didn't get where it was today until it had an investment from an SBIC, same with Oracle, and others. So after you leave, what do we need to do locally so that we can create our own venture capital companies that can access the $2 billion that the federal government provides for private venture capital? Or the $2 billion that they provide for technology companies that we're not getting our fair share of right here in New Orleans. What's your advice?
I think it's 3 parts. One is there is a critical role in every community, including this one, for people in the community to support the entrepreneurs who are building the company of tomorrow. And that can be in the form of actually personally investing, or a company investing, or a company just being a customer, or being a mentor. There's a variety of different ways to do it. But you need to get, the seed corn to get these started. The initial capital usually comes locally. And there's some efforts we talked about. Some people today are working on creating some syndicates of angels to make it easier for people to invest, and to do some of the work in terms of curating some of the companies, doing some of the work in terms of diligence, and doing some of the work in the process, so it's easier for people who are to make these investments. And so the more of that needs to happen. It seems like it's beginning to happen. More of that needs to happen. There is a lot of money, including old money, that's sort of sitting on the sidelines. The argument I'd make to them is even if you don't care about that individual entrepreneur startup, if you care about New Orleans, invest in little companies today, some of which will be the big companies tomorrow. Every 25 years, half of the Fortune 500 companies turn over. So if you're not investing in the new companies, they're going to have a difficult position down there. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to embrace crowdfunding, which is using the internet as a way to create a broader platform. Congress actually 3 years ago passed something called the Jobs Act. The SEC is working on the final rules around crowdfunding. But in the meantime, some states, I don't think it's happened here, but maybe I'm wrong, have already put in local state laws around crowdfunding. It passed in Virginia. It's about to pass this year. North Carolina passed in Georgia. 3 other places we've done this weekend. So that'd be another thing that can be done at more of the regional level, instead of waiting for the government. And the third, the 75% is not. The investment is going to the companies in those 3 states. Many of those firms are in those places.
States that have the most venture capital.
They have the most venture capital, but even venture capitalists in places in other parts of the country, Chicago or have you, are still investing in the companies in those three states. And so the third part, obviously partly what we're trying to do, is to shine a spotlight on the companies here, and over time build more momentum so more investors do get on planes to come there, not just for Mardi Gras, but for kind of Entrepreneur Week or other kinds of events. And so the combination of nurturing more of the companies by having more people provide at least a little bit of the startup capital, everybody doing a little bit together, you can do a lot. Trying to make sure that crowdfunding happens sooner here by kind of creating some platforms around that. And then finally, kind of evangelizing the New Orleans story, not just as you said, not just a place to come to fun, but a place to invest and make money, but also help kind of strengthen the community by strengthening the economy.
Question here. Hi, my name is Tom Fishman. Steve, I noticed you're wearing a wearable device on your wrist there.
I'm so nerdy, actually, I do.
It's a market that is exploding. It's a market that I'm particularly interested in. And Mr. Isaacson said, in technology, the first wave is always about the technology, in this case, the device. And some of us believe that there's another wave to come, as he said, about connecting the information and making it more social. What do you think about that next wave in wearable technology as a match for New Orleans? And what do you think about clustering within a more narrow vertical focus such as that as a match for New Orleans?
I think when regions have a particular focus, I think it helps investors kind of focus. But there are many regions, and I think New Orleans so far appears to be one where there likely will be a mix of different ones that all be about one thing or another thing. In the long run, it's probably healthier. In the short run, it creates a little more challenge in terms of positioning in New Orleans and trying to attract that other attention. But more broadly, I'm really quite optimistic about the next wave of entrepreneurship, which is even in the internet space talked about, borrowing from of course I mentioned on the top of the third wave. I think the third wave of the internet is about to break. It's going to completely transform things like education, healthcare, transportation, energy, food, government services, Internet of Things, a bunch of different things. And I think it's not going to necessarily, the real big companies there, the next really big companies there are going to be in places that surprise people. Because I think in this next wave, it's going to require more strategic partnerships. The second wave, the last 10 or 15 years, really been more about apps like Snapchat or Twitter or having built on top of the internet and these small engineering teams. And if you break through and get that viral success, it can really take off pretty quickly. In this third wave, it's going to require more partnerships, including with big companies, including with governments, because governments are regulators and customers in these different sectors. So I'm really optimistic about this third wave. I actually think the rise of the rest and the third wave are going to come together in a very interesting way, where people will be surprised by some of the new companies that are created that are really improving our lives and disrupting big industries. Healthcare is 1/6 of our economy. Food is a $5 trillion business globally, and they're ripe for change, and that change is going to come from different kinds of entrepreneurs in different kind of places running different kind of plays. It's not going to be about the app. It's also going to be about the partnership. It's not just going to be about the people. It's also going to be about policy and government. I think that advantages places like New Orleans that can take that longer view and have a sense of community and a recognition of the importance of partnerships.
Steve, we appreciate the fact that you're picking up on some of the things that are happening in this session. We sometimes like to think that we are living a model here in terms of this community-based entrepreneurship. But you've been in a dozen more markets now. Is there one thing, more than one thing you've seen as you've traveled that we should pay particular attention to here as we build our ecosystem?
I'm not sure there is one thing. As I said, I think continuing to build on the community side of things is important. We have a 300-year history of that, and I think that's going to bode well for this next wave. I think trying to figure out ways to position yourself where the puck is going, not where it is, but where it's going. That's why we said Wayne Gretzky was such a great hockey player. He had an instinct of where the puck is going, and that's also true for entrepreneurs and also true for communities. To get a sense of where things are going, ties in with some of the comments about the third wave. From the discussions I've had, which have been limited, just most of the day, a lot of people, but just little bits and pieces from people. I do think, and I referenced a little bit before, that figuring out this capital issue is a big problem. Both at the C level, and as I said, it requires more community support, getting some people off the sidelines, and attracting more national attention. I hear that in most regions we travel to, and I certainly heard that today, that there are more entrepreneurs and more ideas, and not the capital to drive those ideas. And the other piece, which is going to become more of an issue, and I think it's going to be a challenge for New Orleans, is to figure out ways to develop and attract more engineers and also more executives who can help manage companies really growing fast. There are engineers here, but there will need to be more, and figuring out ways to create more, kind of locally. I don't know what the answer is. There are different places, like Atlanta, for example, happens to be advantaged by Georgia Tech, really being almost like a factory of engineers. Amazing how many they're putting out. Carnegie Mellon, Pittsburgh is helping to drive some of their efforts in robotics. So the engineering side, I think, it needs some attention, and there are probably some programs that can be put in place to be supportive of that. Figuring out ways to be innovative around the capital side, I think will also kind kind of, bode well, and just trying to encourage people to step up. And the same dynamic we talked about the last 10 years and help rebuild New Orleans next 10 years. How, and there, I think appropriately, actually said the next 3 years. How do we want, at the tricentennial, what do we want the city to look like, including what we want this startup city to look like. So things are going well, but the executive to help manage that hyper growth and some of the engineering, I think, will be the next challenge as sort of New Orleans continues to rise.
Steve, my name is Chris Moe, and as you mentioned earlier, I moved away from Louisiana in 1991 to work in technology. I came back in 2011, and I want to say thank you first off, because in 2013, I attended Startup Weekend in Gainesville, Florida, and founded my current company called WHOPPER here in Louisiana. We were the winner of Startup Weekend in Gainesville that year, and it inspired me to get back into entrepreneurship. But we're having a lot of success here in Louisiana. We're not having trouble talking to venture capitalists. What we're having trouble with is the venture capitalists we talk to ask, are we willing to move in order to be successful? So what do we do to convince them that they can invest in us here, we can be successful here in Louisiana? Because we already are.
I think that is, I still hear that. Although I heard that more 5 years ago than I heard that. I think there is more of a recognition that different communities have different cultures and different specialties, and the idea of taking that and networks, and the idea of extracting those people and dropping them in some other place is kind of dumb. And the only reason to do it is out of convenience for them, so they get in the car instead of getting the plane to go visit the company. So it's kind of a selfish thing on the part of investors. Some of that depends on the sector. Some of that may be a perspective that you won't be able to attract the talent here as a state. So showing that you are able to do that makes sense. But we've had many companies today that really are demonstrating that. Many companies today that really were being asked a couple of years ago that was kind of interesting. We are kind of interested in investing, but we like you to move to California or some other place, and they said no, and they still were able to eventually find investors who would back them, and now they're growing quite rapidly, and the investors I think are delighted to be part of it. So the great thing is once an investor from one of these other places invests in one company here, they have a reason to come here for board meetings or other kinds of things. Once they're here, they start getting plugged into the network. They start hearing about their companies, other kinds of opportunities. Then they make a second investment, a third investment, a fourth investment. And suddenly it's a center of gravity. So I think that kind of thing was pretty common, not just New Orleans, but other regions in these rise and rest regions. Certainly 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, it's less common now. Obviously, part of the reason we're making this push is to try to make sure every entrepreneur can build a company wherever they want. And there are initiatives with our partners in this rise and rest with Google, with their Google for Entrepreneurs effort. And now 2 years in a row, they've gathered together entrepreneurs from different places. I've been a judge each year, and I think last year, 10 or 11 companies in 8 different regions. They actually bring to Silicon Valley to Google headquarters and invite 50, 60 venture capitalists from Silicon Valley to hear the pitches from the rise of the rest regions. And that's another thing. We're almost trying to curate the rise of the rest entrepreneurs, whether it's specifically in New Orleans or more broadly. So I would just say, you're building something, it's got some traction. Maybe there are people here that can help provide some of that next round of capital, just with a little more proof of concept, a little more traction in the market, a few more people, a few more this, a few more that, and to then make it easier for those other investors to invest. But there is no reason to move. If you want to be here, you should have the support of the community, and over time the support of national investors, so you can start and grow companies here.
Hi there, Victoria Adams with the Idea Bill. So Steve, you've almost spent a full day in New Orleans. What are some of the competitive advantages or assets you've seen locally that you think you should be focused on as we look to 2018?
Well, I think it's something I talked about before. I think that the biggest one is something you live every day, probably don't fully appreciate how unique it is, which is this sense of community, this sense of partnership, and the sense that we're all in this together. And sometimes it's easy to say that, it's hard to do it. It sounds like there are companies here that don't really feel like the community is showing them the love and showing them the support. And so I think I would encourage everybody here, the fact that you are here, presumably care about this topic, to, when you leave here, whether it be, next week or next month, do a little more to support, support entrepreneurs. But if you mentor them, buy them a cup of coffee, or maybe you don't want to invest or don't have the money to invest, but maybe you can, open the door so that you can invest. So the community aspect, I think, is a big deal, a huge source of differentiation versus other places. That's the big one. Yeah, I talked about some of the other ones earlier. You want to add?
I see people on the 7th generation, Louisiana, and really dedicated to this place. We're doing some really special things here and trying to fix a lot of things that are broken. And Paul Hawkins and the late Ray Anderson, this is a very big picture question I want to ask you about how we operate. Paul Hawkins and the late Ray Anderson described our business model as take, make, waste. And we're running into the limits of the planet right now. And we're threatening our own survival as a species by continuing that model. And McKinsey and Company, and Ray Anderson at Interface tried to change that around so that their company didn't take more from the earth than it could get back. McKinsey and Company are described that as a circular economy. Most of the work my partner Grasshopper and I do is focused on trying to transform our business models into that circular economy. It's not a very entrepreneurial space to be in because it confronts a lot of people's behaviors and it confronts a lot of things that we're doing and that people just want to keep doing because our models are built that way. But we're running into these limits and we're in some pretty hot water right now, quite literally in many ways. How do you see business making the adjustment? I find that the United States seems to be behind European countries and other countries where the concept of the circular economy, the responsibility for what you make, taking 100% responsibility from cradle to cradle, how do you see these dynamics affecting business as we move forward and challenging what we do? And is there a way for us to turn this into a really win-win for everybody so that we do have a thriving economy?
That's why I asked that. Did you say your partner named Grasshopper? Yeah. What an awesome name. I think I'm optimistic about what you're talking about. Phil McDonough and others who wrote Cradle when he wrote it, maybe 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago, I think. It didn't get, it got attention in small sectors that didn't get broader attention, but it is getting broader attention. And it is starting to attract more entrepreneurs, starting to attract more capital. It ties into this broader topic we talked about around social enterprise, impact investing, kind of profit plus purpose, and kind of taking a long-term view. And one of the aspects that's really going to drive that are younger people that really do have a different, kind of mindset, a different kind of perspective as we discussed before. So I wouldn't give up. I go back to the AOL story. I mentioned it took a while to get traction, and there are many days where it didn't look like it ever would take off. But we stuck with it, and finally, after 10 years, we were an overnight success. So some of these things just take a while to bake in the oven, and the challenge for entrepreneurs is to be able to stick with it, persevere, and keep pushing, and eventually, things will open up. I think in that space there is brewing momentum that I'm encouraged by.
Can I just add that one of the competitive advantages this region has would be startups and entrepreneurship that deals with sustainability issues, because we're on the front line of it. Today on the Mardi Gras float, we got a pitch from somebody, I'm not sure he's here, if he is, he can wave in, has sort of a Lego type device that becomes an oyster bed, that becomes a reef, that protects wetlands. Stand up, there you are. Let me tell you that in California, where they haven't seen the drop of rainfall, they're not inventing that. The people here can deal with energy, can deal with carbon, can deal with wetlands, and that's something that I would hope we would focus some of our entrepreneurial energy on, is following in your footsteps.
So it looks like we're getting hooked here because the best part of the day is about to happen, which is the pitch competition. So if you can hold tight, we'll reset the stage and start that, and I think you'll be taken by the president. And I want to thank Walter for being here and doing this. born and raised here, even though he traveled around the world because he's a big shot. His heart, his soul, his family is still here. His father is 2 blocks from here, so breaking down not just fact, but bringing his perspective on innovation. I just leave with the idea that this community is onto something and really well positioned. There are issues, we talked about some of those in terms of making sure the capital's there, making sure the mentoring is there, making sure there's a way to attract, develop and attract more engineering talent, make sure there are ways to make sure things are really inclusive. There's still work to be done, but some of the core unique differentiators of New Orleans, having visited a lot of different cities, really are striking and especially you should feel proud of that. But at the same time, as I said, kind of come out of this saying, okay, great, the momentum is strong, we are making progress, but it's not time to spike the football. There's a lot of work, ahead, particularly the next 3 years coming up to this 300. And what can you all do to lift up the speed? We will do what we can do to try to tell the story of New Orleans. We have the world's great storytellers here, and we'll try to make sure that we do what we do to not just shine a spotlight on entrepreneurs, but also on New Orleans, hopefully attract more capital to the entrepreneurs in New Orleans. But ultimately, the future, as it should be, and as you know it will be, of New Orleans is within your hands, is within your grasp, with the same level of energy and sense of possibility that this community embraced 10 years ago at a time of great tragedy. If that same focus continues and is applied to supporting the entrepreneurs and building the startup scene, taking it to the next level, I think this will be an awesome place to be for the next 300 years. So thank you, and stay with
Yeah.
Maybe let's take a seat now. We're really excited. I know we're having a good time. It's time for everyone just take a seat. If you can hear me say, all right. You guys can take a seat. We're going to start in about 10 seconds. There's a lot of great seats up here. I'm not very serious. I don't mind. All right, so there's a few folks over here if you want to grab some seats in the middle here. Fill it out. All right, I am Frank Irvin, driving with Uber. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TechTac. It's been about 10 years since I've actually been in New Orleans, and it's been a really great trip to kind of come back and see it. It was actually, New Orleans was actually a catalyst for what I'm doing right now. I came out here and had for an event 10 years ago, and it kind of threw me into the world of media, and now I run a media site and company, and we tell stories about entrepreneurship and ecosystems and create resources for them all around the country. So it's been great to be back and see all the different startups and innovations happening here, all the different places for collisions and idea village. And we got to ride a float today. That was pretty. I don't think I've ever been to a float. That was pretty neat. Not to mention startup pitch con. That was pretty great. And sampled some of the cuisine like the butcher and Managed Palace. It makes it a pretty solid experience if you haven't tried it. I'm a big fan. All right, so we got the repeat for. You ready to hear what we're going to be doing next? Who's ready? All right, so this is the startup pitch competition, and I'm going to introduce our judges, and then we're going to give you the criteria of what we're doing. So, but first, I'm going to need your help. It's not easy to come stand up here and tell your story to the community, so you're going to need your support. So what I'm going to want you to do when they come out, every single time they come out, I'm going to want you to really give them a lot of hoot and holler and make sure that they know you're here and that you're supporting them. So do you think you can do that for me? Yeah. I trust you if you're going to do that. We'll do a little bit of practice in a second with our judges. So let's have our judges come out here. Judges, you back there? Come on out. Oh, they might not be back there. No, here they go. It's kind of an option for us. We're in beautiful Canada. Take a seat and I'll introduce our judges. So, there's some nice seats over here. Got some water for you. Stay hydrated, right? All right. All right. So first off, I'd like to introduce T. Martin from Managed Palace. I just mentioned that a second ago. We got Jack Strief from your New Orleans Saints. We got Gene Case, the CEO of the Case Foundation and the Champion for Social Entrepreneurship. We've got David Hall from Revolution. And that's the catalyst for the rise of the West Tour. He's also the founder of AOL and Revolution, Mr. Steve Case. So that was pretty good cheering, but I really need, like where I say this, I need to really get some support because they're going to get your help, but it's not easy. So let's just practice one time and then we'll get those perfect criteria. How does that sound? Good? Okay. So and then we'll ready. 1, 2, 3, up! Let's go! Let's hear it! Here we go. That's more than anything. Okay, we can take a seat now. I knew you had it ready. We just gotta be ready for these startups. All right, so here's what we're doing. They're getting ready for mics. We're gonna have 7 companies come out here. They were pulled from a number of companies applied, and they're going to pitch for 4 minutes, and then there's gonna be a 3-minute Q&A. So the judges are gonna ask questions, and then after that, you know, they'll go back and tabulate, and we'll select the winner of $100,000. It's a big check. Right, so that'll be super exciting. But what are we judging on? We've got criteria here. So it's actually bold idea. So we're looking at the bold idea. Does the company have, you know, great jobs? How does the team look? Do they have relevant experience? How are they executing? They'll be able to execute and accomplish their goals. Is the business model? I mean, what does this model look like? Is it something that has the ability to make money sustain itself? And then finally, actually local, does it have support local or have some representation of this city? So that's kind of a key one. And then we've got diversity. Does it, you know, is it inclusive? Does it encapsulate somebody's ability to include, you know, different types of diverse people from all over the place? So basically, you get what I'm saying. So, all right. So, are we ready? One more thing I want to add before we get started. So they're going to have 4 minutes to finish. When they get to that point where there's a timer right here, I'm going to keep an eye on it. You want to wait a little bit right here? So we're going to keep an eye on it. At 4 minutes, you know, they may try to keep going. I'm going to start clapping kind of slow, like a slow clap. When I do that, that's your indication that you need to raise the roof. You need to really let them know, like, it's kind of time. So, because otherwise it's embarrassing, right? That's me. So I'm going to need your help. Okay. So you're going to do that one, right? Yeah. It's going to be fun. And then they need to hear it. So let's get ready. Ready for our first startup? Yeah. All right. They're going to be coming down from over here. So let's hear it for Plant-Fit.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cameron, a native New Orleanian, with a product that is to change the future of buying in the ornamental horticulture industry. I'm putting a challenge to change the way shopping is done on the internet. How many of you have shopped for products on the internet? How many of you have tried to buy a project's worth of products on the internet? Not many. You see, this is a shopping habit that's not currently supported on the internet. Multiple product search, and this is what Plant-Fit is. Plant-Fit is basically the aggregation of multiple different items all at one time. Our industry is basically, when you look out of any window, the soft, fluffy green thing that you see, those are the plants. We're talking about over a $30 billion industry, with over $8 billion a year spent on just plants alone. Anybody that can buy wholesale plant products will be included as a professional in this industry. Aggregation of multiple product types is essential to job profit in this industry.
It's still not. And buying in this industry can be quite complicated. You're looking at grower pricing sheets. What's important to recognize is that most growers don't grow the same items, and if they do, they're almost always at different price points. It was through these frustrations that Plant.a was born. Why can't advanced search algorithms sift through provider data, calculate complicated freight flow prices, and guide buyers to their best job delivered price? They can. At least for the professional landscape industry. I'm gonna need a second chance.
Oh.
That's that. I'm gonna rise to the rest. Plant-based generator. You got a computer that what am I supposed to be pointing at? Plant-based generates revenue in essence out of the savings of the supplier our customers. For this particular job, the customer decided to self-source. Plant.a generated $500 revenue off of this one job. Upon onboarding this customer, Plant.a can expect to receive another 14 opportunities in just the next 12 months alone. The customer could have chosen to use Plant.a support, in which case additional fees would have been incurred to manage the purchasing process for the client. Plant.a launched in August of last year into the southeastern United States. Reducing census data, we estimate over 200,000 potential customers for the Plant.a market. Since launch, Plant.a has placed over $750,000 in product through its platform. Just since January, we have placed over $550,000 in product through the platform, and we already have over $250,000 in product scheduled to be placed in the next 30 days. More than 100 nurseries have sold product to new customers brought them through Plant.a. And we now have over 1,000 nurseries participating in pricing Plant.a products. We are led by mid-generation business leaders, experts in general business, horticulture, and software. We have bought and sold millions of dollars of product through the years and helped create some of the most advanced algorithms used in today's robotics and technology. Together, we have developed the logic which powers Plant.a. I'll leave you with this. Should single item search be the only shopping habit that's supported on the internet? We've created the first multiple product search engine and launched it to a sizable industry, literally removing all the clutter out of the way off the table. Thank you.
Good job. Let's hear it more.
So Karen, congratulations. First lesson of entrepreneurship is perseverance. You gotta work hard. You were living lessons that how that works. My question is, you're building a marketplace. You've got buyers and sellers on the same platform. So those work, they're really great, but how do you think about acquiring buyers versus sellers, i.e. the chicken and egg problem? What are you gonna go after first, and how do you think you're gonna target those guys?
Well, you can't sell a region without selling that. But the way we're advancing into the marketplace is by getting buyers in a region to bring real jobs to sellers. So that allows us to double it. Basically, we're able to sell onboarded sellers and new sellers based on the product needs. When they make a real sale, this is the good truth, is they're also buyers. Sellers are buyers that need to be stocked in the next week.
How do you market your product? How do people find out about you?
A lot of it right now is through campaigns or word of mouth. So we do have salespeople on the road, but we also have email campaigns and trade shows that we're going and networking with the industry.
and teaching them what we are. You know, it's a brand new marketplace for an old ancient industry. So we've got to teach them how easy it is.
The sales projection for say year 3 and year 5, and do you think you'll end up staying local with your main headquarters or center?
I'm native from New Orleans, and I want to stay local to this state. You know, it's in my blood, so absolutely I will stay. I moved to Atlanta and moved back just for that reason. Yeah, we project that you know, it's going to take a little while to build the industry, but our projections are better than any business model that I've ever run before. There's residual customer base because the products work. They provide the savings tenfold of what their typical traditional buying habits are.
So you just think, you try to understand it in terms of the model. I think you said the next 30 days, you have $500,000 worth of stuff to be sold.
This year, we've $550,000 of product has been placed through the platform, and we have 250 for the next 30 days. That's so we're scaling pretty fast.
And then essentially your cut on that is what is the net savings and what is your cut of that?
So their savings from there is anywhere from 15 to 40% compared to their traditional buying habits. We take anywhere from 2.5% to 30%, depending on how we manage the process. If they self-source, then it's 2.5%. We don't have to really touch it. They do all the technology by themselves. If we support the process, then we look at it as a business transaction. We feel like a good price is at 18% for our take, and that's still beating the way they currently are. That's what the price is.
All right, looks like we're out of time. Thank you. Great thing, Ryan.
We're going to do a little bit of a test here. Let's see, greens, go. No. No. Let's try it again. Greens, go. So, what's that? I think it's working. Red wings back. Yep. Okay. All right. That seems like it's working. Greens, go. Yes. All right. Let's hear it for where you at. Where are you?
Hi, I'm Colin, co-founder of Where You Are. This is Andy Warhol, and this is his studio, The Factory. It was a place where all sorts of up-and-coming artists, gallery owners, and collectors mingled. This is Jean-Michel Basquiat, at the time an unknown street artist from Brooklyn. Basquiat and other artists were drawn to The Factory because it offered them exposure that they never would have gotten on their own. Because of the relationships that he made at The Factory, he left from graffiti artists to sold-out shows in galleries around the world, and today his works sell for millions. WhereYouAre.net is Warhol's factory in a digital age. You see, local arts communities are often scattered. So we created a digital platform that does what Warhol's factory did by driving discovery, connectivity, and monetization for art communities and the local artists who live there. And here's how. We connect artists with each other, artists with galleries, artists with arts organizations, and above all, we connect all of them to each other into a $1.5 billion global market of buyers, which is expected to more than double within the next few years. Where Your Art's unique platform is more than just an online marketplace. It is a social network with a curated selection of works ranging from painting and jewelry to furniture. Our platform offers each city the opportunity to highlight their best and brightest, from artists to galleries and special events, driving tourism and sustainability. Where Your Art lets buyers connect with artists. Meet Jeremy, read his story, and see the galleries where he's showing. Message directly with Jeremy and interact with him through a variety of different social features because we are your 24-hour gallery where the artist is always present and our wall space has no limits. Where Your Art is a subscription and transaction-based model with both recurring revenue streams as well as single transactional revenues. Our marketing strategy focuses on the use of digital media, promotions, and sales referrals to increase the numbers of buyers and sellers in our ecosystem. And here's how. Our artist ambassadors are our sales team to recruit artists, but better than that, at this point, our artists are our best ambassadors. For city outreach, We identify organizations with whom we partner with to license our platform and bring Where You Are to their city. Our site engagement is high, and our strategy for targeting commercial buyers greatly increases our ability to monetize art. When we license our platform to a community, we provide them with this proven model and playbook to launch Where You Are in their city. With New Orleans as our proof of concept, we are now ready to scale. In 2 years, we're looking forward to launching Where You Are chapters in 12 new cities and are currently in partnership discussions with Washington, D.C. Our team is perfectly positioned to grow this platform with the right mix of left and right brain needed to connect with artists, businesses, and communities. I'm a local artist who graduated with honors from A.D. Green School of Business. So within a year of moving back to New Orleans, I had not only created my own sustainable art business, I began consulting others on how to do the same. For the past 15 years, my co-founder, Pat, has worked as a creative director and graphic designer building national brands and running her own business. But don't take our word for it. Since launching this platform a little over a year ago, we've already sold over 600 artworks and added 5 members to our team. We've onboarded more than 100 member artists and have a 90% artist retention rate. And since March alone, we have sold over $70,000 in artwork. Walter Isaacson has said, the way to create value in the 21st century is to connect creativity with technology, and that is what we do. Please invest in Where You Are and invest in an entire community of creative entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Who's got the first question for me?
I'll start. Colin, great presentation. Really like the building, so congratulations. My quick question for you is, you have a long list of cities that you're thinking about branching out to. What are the conditions you look for in a city that make it right for Where You Are expansion?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you asked that question. What we're specifically focusing on are secondary and tertiary markets that already have vibrant cultural and arts communities. And we look at different metrics within those that include affordable housing for artists, investment in arts and culture, early adopters of technology, and growth within the past 5 years, as well as a variety of different other metrics.
And sorry, a quick follow-up. And Manhattan, Los Angeles, not on the list?
Specifically, we're looking at cities that are under 1 million people. Currently, we are looking at Washington, D.C. as our first scale city, so we're very excited about that. We're hoping to launch that later this year. But yeah, cities that are under 1 million.
Help me understand if it's all online, why does it really matter where?
Well, we use a different thing. The platform is one part of it. You have to look at this slide right here that I breezed through. Our platform online is the marketplace, the social network, it's all of the things that we do online. But what we do in addition to that is we provide professional and business development for artists who very often do not have any training in any kind of business development. So what we do is we focus on helping them to create a strong brand. We offer them affordable rates for professional photography with art direction so that they can connect with buyers in a digital space. We offer them everything from information on how to LLC themselves to information about taxes, to also connect them with the other opportunities that exist within our city, like Arts Council, the SBC, and all the different entities here that work for entrepreneurs. We see every artist as an entrepreneur, and we connect them with all of those services as well.
You're the idea village for the artists?
So competition, I agree with you. It's a great presentation, great big opportunity here, because you know a lot of people trying to do something like this. How do you see the competition?
Well, as many of you know, Edson just filed for its IPO. What we've done is we've taken elements of a lot of the different popular platforms and brought them together. One thing that is missing from every single one of those online platforms is the personal touch. It's the consulting. Anyone can list their work and can list their items on a website and hope that it gains traction and hope that it sticks somewhere out there. But without knowing the proper way to shoot your work, photograph your work, market your work, correctly use social media, it just goes out there into this great abyss and you hope that something sticks. What we are trying to be is that connector in that process.
All right, great pitch, thank you.
All right. Our next presenter is Oretha. Come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Mangum. Thank you for the opportunity today. I'm the CEO of From.a. We are an Internet of Things startup. What does that mean? Well, the Internet of Things is a vision of the future in which most things and potentially everything is connected to the Internet. This is very important and provides a lot of opportunities and a lot of threats. Before we're going to explore a couple of opportunities and threats that we want to pursue. What does it mean to be connected to the Internet? Well, when you press the Facebook logo on your smartphone and you connect to Facebook and get a social media session, you're actually engaging with $1 trillion of internet infrastructure that's been built in the US over about the past century. That internet infrastructure is very important to the Internet of Things vision, because as everything gets connected to this infrastructure, it has to work. So uptime is critical. The internet is connected to the power grid, and we all know that occasionally the power grid goes down. So when your house, your car, trains, planes, and everything are connected to the internet, what happens when the power goes out? Does the internet continue to work? Well, as it turns out, the internet is backed up by batteries, tens of millions of batteries. They're pretty standard batteries, 12-volt valve-regulated lead-acid batteries, kind of the same battery that you find in your car. These batteries are essential to providing uptime when the power goes out. And there's a guy, we call him Hank in our presentation, who goes around maintaining these batteries and making sure that they work. If Hank does his job right, the internet works when the power goes out. If he doesn't, then sometimes catastrophic events can occur. In this case, a thermal runaway where telecom infrastructure has been destroyed and fire. How do we help? Well, we bring technology to the problem, help Hank to streamline his maintenance visits, to extend the life of batteries so that we reduce CapEx expenditures and save the carrier money in that way. Our solution is a hardware and software solution. We have an appliance that connects to the batteries. The appliance gathers data from the batteries in a way that informs a charging algorithm. We can extend the life of batteries using the appliance. The software gathers a lot of data that we can use to detect things like potential battery failures. We do predictive analytics on our data to predict a battery failure 90 days out, to identify that rectifier, to identify other problems in the network. We have about 3 years of data from a lab trial demonstrating doubling of battery life that we can deliver to carriers for these valve-regulated lead-acid batteries. 18 months of field trial data demonstrating similar savings or maybe even additional savings or additional battery life extension. We have a new product coming out in the fourth quarter. We're raising a Series A round to fund the development of that product. It will be much less expensive, much smaller, able to address many more cabinets in the network. Our revenue model consists of an upfront payment from the carrier, a recurring revenue stream. That's a subscription to the data service that we provide. Applying our revenue model to the available market, we see a very large domestic market, a very large global market in the billions of dollars, including the recurring revenue piece. We have over 100 sites deployed now, over 200 battery streams that we're managing in the U.S., primarily distribution and strategic partnerships in place with some of the biggest names in the telecom OEM business. Very experienced management team, guys who have done venture-backed startups, guys who have good relationships in telecom. And that's it. In terms of our connection to New Orleans, we believe that emanating from New Orleans gives us a lot of credibility given the strong culture here and the problems that we have of locally managed power.
It's sort of data, right? Because it's about that's what I'm okay, let's see it. All right, yeah, sure, yeah, come on up. All right, we're All right, 3 minutes. Who's got the first question?
So I'll start. Chris, congrats on the very interesting product. So you guys are extending the life of batteries in these existing systems. How will you work with the battery manufacturers who want to sell more batteries, but you're extending their life a little bit longer?
Well, it's an interesting conundrum for battery manufacturers. You don't necessarily reduce the number of batteries they sell, you reduce the number of batteries that they have to ship. When they sell a battery, there's a warranty attached to it. If the battery fails prematurely, then they have to ship another battery. And sometimes they'll sell 1 battery and ship 3 batteries. So the economics of their business is challenged by the lack of maintenance on behalf of the carrier. What we do is we ensure that they're maintained because we're doing it remotely and using technology to do it. And you can't get around every battery.
Are they potential partners of yours?
They are. In fact, they're very interested in the battery data that we're gathering. They believe that they can use that to develop better batteries.
Great pitch, Chris. So can you talk a little bit about the competitive landscape? Who else is out there and how are you different?
Sure. There are various providers who do monitoring-only solutions. They have inexpensive ways to attach the batteries and gather data. We haven't seen anyone who actually manages the charging of the batteries in the way that we do. And some of the partners like Ericsson have done extensive searches around the globe to try to find that. We haven't seen anybody, they haven't seen anybody that manages the batteries in the way that we do. Without the battery life extension, it's very hard to justify the investment because the ROI isn't there. It's a big part of the ROI.
Great, thanks.
Can you explain basically what it would cost an average company? You know, I mean, how does this work? I mean,
Yeah,
if
sure.
you're an accounting firm or a restaurant, you know, how does it work?
Well, so the numbers for a carrier, see if we can go back to this real quick in that time. The upfront payment is approximately $3,000 for the current device. Right here. So $3,000 for the current device, that's the upfront payment. And then there's a recurring revenue piece over the course of the first 4 years. We're trying to get that to be about the same as the upfront investment. And then the second 8 years is actually a contract extension for the management. If we get there, there's a tremendous upside to us, but there's also a tremendous upside to the customer. Because at that point, their savings is great. It drives their ROI too. The big cost savings for the customer there in year 4 is the elimination of turn of batteries. So they don't have to replace about $3,000 worth of batteries in a single cabinet. And we save them that money. Where the next generation appliance would be less than half the cost of the initial appliance, maybe a third the cost of the initial appliance. And so that upfront payment to us goes down, but the payback and the IRR really become much more compelling for the carrier. And so it's critical.
All right, great pitch. Thank you. All right. All right. I'm going to try to not take us next startups in personal or to heart. Let's hear it for Get Healthy.
I'm Blaine, and I rise out of bed every morning to work on a company that hopefully will change the way that many people in this room get their primary care. To Get Healthy, we create the software and solutions that are powering the direct primary care revolution. Direct primary care is a new, rapidly growing style of primary care that's characterized by a blue screen. It's characterized by a monthly membership transaction between a patient and a physician, kicking insurance.
Hold on a second.
You may be helpful.
Any play piano?
Would be just
Never been
fallacy. Yeah.
So,
What is that?
oh, that's looks like the matrix or something. That's interesting.
Where's Chris in my back?
I don't even know how to make that happen. Ever seen that scene? All right, well, while we're waiting to get it fixed, I understand
Frank today, Frank Gruber as an Uber having a birthday. So let's sing happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. That's it. Come on, let's start off at the beginning of the talk. Get healthy as a fair shot. Are you ready? Ready to start the talk? All right, let's go. Let's go. Here we go.
Direct primary care is a new rapidly growing primary care system characterized by a flat monthly membership fee paid directly from the patient to the physician, kicking insurance out of the equation. Right now, so if the panel right now feels that healthcare is hunky-dory and everything's great, then you're not investing, right? But you know, suppose this. So when a patient walks into a physician office right now, there are a number of very powerful factors at play, and not all of those factors have the patient's best interest in mind. What direct primary care does is get those interests out of them. It gets the patient and physician relationship back to one-on-one, and it's essentially like a set of membership. Think of it like a gym membership, and instead of a treadmill inside, there's a doctor, right? So anything that doctor can do, you get to use it, and that's part of your membership. So that's direct primary care. Oh, it's the fastest growing trend in primary care right now. And in 2015 Look Ahead issue, Time Magazine called it the solution for American healthcare. What we do, so let's get healthy. What we do is we allow practices to open economically and run financially properly. Right? So at the beginning, we have a kit of services because you have to transition from the old model into this. We help doctors get out there, get on their feet with all the documents and get them right. Then we have a Get Healthy 2.0 software wellness platform. What that does is allows the physician to run the practice efficiently, but also to create the health in their patient population that they need to make this a successful model. Finally, and this is the real choke point in the industry, is that you have to get to a certain number of patients to make this flow. Right, and so we've created an automated lead identification sales cycle to get the practice packed, and for that we get a large per member per month fee for as long as the patient stays with the practice. The market is huge, so we have data that shows that 40% of the 115,000 primary care physicians in the country are actively seeking to transition to this model. That means approximately 46,000 new physicians could be out there by 2018. That's a 1,000% increase in the market in 2 years. Each one of these 46,000 physicians represents a $45,000 recurring revenue contract for Get Healthy, and it also represents 1,000 patients who can get the best healthcare that they've had in their lives. In our short time, I believe you guys visited the Bio-Innovation Center today. We've been voted one of the 3 fastest growing companies in BPC. We've got customers or pledges in 5 states now. Our funnel is completely full. We've been voted the most influential brand in direct primary care. And Wednesday, I was named the inaugural top CEO in direct primary care, which means absolutely nothing. Except that I have an absolutely phenomenal team, right? So I'm a happy recovering healthcare regulatory attorney. Did my run around in DC for long enough. My partner, William Putman, is a Louisiana physician who's now at Stanford University. My partner, Steve Springer, aka the Red Elvis, is a direct primary care physician here in Louisiana, and we're helping his practice become one of the most progressive in the country. And John Elstrad is our chairman, who's also the chairman of Whole Foods Markets. And you know, he's one of the fathers of conscious capitalism, which is very similar to impact investing, which is what we're advocating. So you know, this is a really big idea, right? What we're trying to do is take the level of healthcare that is usually reserved for the most successful members of our society, and we're going to get that to everybody. We're going to get that to employees of companies. We're going to get that to restaurant and musician employees that run the New Orleans economy, right? And we're even going to get it to the same stations. So, you know, I hope you guys will hop on our bus. So thank you very much.
My doctor just started something like this, and you can pay however many $100 a year in basic concierge service to get in, do whatever you want. You know, why is this any better than that? Why should you pay him? And the second question, gyms have a horrific time trying to keep people as members. There's a tough business plan to keep this membership thing going. How do you address those two?
Well, okay, so the first one is that, what was the question to get this started? Oh, why is this much here? So you struck on the bad word in our industry, right? Concierge medicine is a similar model, but it smacks of elitism, right? I mean, what this is to put it very basically, is concierge medicine for the masses. We've got the price point down that everybody can afford it, or a charitable organization can afford it for their members. Or certainly restaurants is an amazing solution for restaurants, for their people. And so the second one was,
If you were like a gym.
oh, the problem is, so, gyms come and go, right? But you can have your child stay for $29. And you help a child, and you help somebody's family, particularly as a business owner, and they stick with you for life. And this is a whole different scene, right? It's making your doctor part of your team. Does that make sense? Retention rates are high, 94%. Short answer.
In terms of it being an affordable model, how do you keep the prices at a point like you say you have to for $29 trying to get that someone with a doctor and not get to a point where you outprice the very people that you don't want, that you're saying that the concierge model kind of.
So for every primary care physician, there's 3 people in that office building with salaries. What these doctors are able to do is get that overhead down to about 24 to 25%, and that's what creates the spread, right? So that's why they're able to afford to do it.
So Glenn, on the flip side, I know doctors are very, very concerned about their revenue. As you're converting them from the current system to your system, will they make more money? How will that transition?
Right, so actually the average physician primary care reimbursement in this country is down below $75,000. You can make almost twice that if you get a full panel of 1,000. And the secret is that, by lowering that overhead and by building that patient base with the Get Healthy system and with our recruiting policies, that's how you can create that, a dead period, get it up, and then they make more. And when big doctors make enough, people get healthy. That's the most important thing about this.
Traction so far?
We've got,
how fast is growing?
we're completely full. We're scaling rapidly now. We've got 4 clinics up and running. We've done the implementation piece. And now our contracts are in that recruiting patient side. So revenue positive, but waiting on the big, as we bring in the full clinics and get out of here for the next year, we're still getting that recurring revenue from all the patients we go after.
Especially congratulations on being a direct care CEO of the year. All right, so can you hear me? We're halfway home, and we've got 2 more quizzes for you. Let's think about this for a second. If you have a phone that has Twitter on it, you can use it and you can tweet. You can put photos on it, probably, and you can tweet this hashtag right here, Rise of Rest. Rise of Rest. Take a photo right now if you want to. All right. Back to the program. All right, so next up, we've got go-to interview. Come on up here. Let's hear it.
I'm Kristen McDonald, co-founder and CEO of GoToInterview.com. By show of hands, how many of you have ever interviewed someone, and in the first 30 seconds, your mind begins to wander and you have this sad realization that you're about to wait the next 30 minutes of your life? We all have. My family's been in the restaurant business my entire life, and we've seen just about every hiring challenge you can think of. Interviewing and hiring is a big problem for everyone. In fact, let me show you just how big it is. Right now, there are 79 million hourly wage employees in the United States, which makes up about 65% of the American workforce. 27 million of those folks work in high-turn industries like construction, hospitality, retail, quick service restaurants, and healthcare. I was really surprised to learn that the average cost to hire one employee earning $8 an hour is $5,500. That the average turnover rate is 60%. Now you do the math on that. That's a market spend of $32 billion. It's expensive. So for employers in high-turn industries, the hiring process is burdensome, it's time-consuming, and it's costly. And what they need is a resource that allows them to access and get candidates quickly. So for employers and job seekers in high-turn industries, GoToInterview is a web-based employment service that streamlines the hiring process by connecting the two using on-demand video interviewing technology. We created this tool because we needed a resource that allows us to access and vet candidates fast to small business owners. This works for large employers as well. I'll give you an example. A client of ours, a local hotel who receives 27,000 applications a year, Then you pass those folks through a 7-step vetting process and hire 900 of them. It costs them $5 million to do it in most of the calendar year. And why? Because you have to account for the true cost to hire, the time and effort it takes to post an opportunity online, schedule your first interview, have your first interview, schedule your second interview, have your second interview, extend the offer, conduct the background check, train the employee, and by the way, you're doing it all over again in 90 days, because that's the average length of time an employee stays employed in a high-turn industry. Go-to-interview makes it easy. An employer can simply post an opportunity on the site with corresponding customized interview questions, and our pool of job seekers answer those questions using a webcam. The employer receives an immediate notification giving them the opportunity to make an evaluation on motivation, fit, and performance in just minutes. We essentially eliminate the first interview, streamlining the cost and time to hire, and by a lot. We advertise this in 3 ways. We have a tiered subscription-based model for small businesses, enterprise model for medium-sized businesses that need more customization, and software licensing for larger businesses. The space is heating up, and that's interesting to us. We differentiate on 2 things. One, we are the only video interviewing provider that provides access to a pool of job seekers that have already interviewed at any time and from anywhere. But most importantly, we focus exclusively on the high-turn industries which employ the hourly wage, and quite frankly, our competitors completely overlook that, even though they make up over 65% of the American workforce. Our team, deeply rooted with deep knowledge in business development, recruiting, and technology, and we work very hard to push the mission of Go To Interview forward, which is to find jobs for 1 million people. Right now, we're rocking and rolling. We have 6,000 job seekers on the site, and a nice pipeline that includes a Boulevard airline and 2 national retailers, which will yield 20 times revenue in this next year. We have a big brand, a pool of big brand clients that are not only using Go To Interview, but they love us. So right now, we are head down and focused on growth, and we want you to be a part of that. So, will you invest in Go To Interview and be a partner with us as we fundamentally change the way people hire and get hired in high-turn industries? Thank you.
So I'll start. Crystal, congratulations on what you guys have built. I've followed you guys for a while, and been since coming to New Orleans. I've seen the evolution of the business, so congrats. My question for you, you've got a lot of big brands on there. For a small startup based in New Orleans, how were you able to win the national airline, the other retailer, the 2 national retailers as clients?
Right, so I'm glad you asked. We actually, those are in the pipeline to close this year, based on connections and just conversations with people, but primarily we're working with a global airline based out of Atlanta. For a contract to them just yesterday, and they have already sent us what they're looking at, and they're excited about kind of getting to the next step with us. But on the franchise level, the great thing is that we've got champions at the franchise level that are willing to introduce us to opportunities on the national level. You'll see that play out with the airline, the staffing company that we're working with there. They support other airlines as well, which will give us a pipeline into other large airlines. So start at the ground and work our way out.
Quick technical question. Are you integrated with existing HR recruiting systems that some of these other big companies may also have?
We're not integrated yet. That's the next step. That's one of the technology advancements that we're looking forward to with growth and capital. Right now, we do work well in tandem with interactive tracking systems, especially as it relates to some of the big ones that are out there.
Really great pitch, Crystal. Congratulations on what you're doing. Can you talk a little bit more about the business model? When do you guys make money and how does it work?
Right. So right now we have a tiered subscription-based model for small businesses, mom and pop shops that just need to post an opportunity on the site and gain access to the pool of applicants. That's based on, depending on the number of postings you have and the time that you keep those postings on our site. The enterprise model is closely related, kind of like a customized professional services type relationship for middle-sized businesses that need a little bit more HR consultative type resources. So we price that based on scope and scale.
So on the price for the smaller businesses, what's that look like? What's the average?
Yes, ma'am. $30, $60, or $100. $120, excuse me, and then on the medium-sized businesses, oh, and by the way, it's a 12-month subscription, and then medium-sized businesses anywhere from $500 to $1,500 over a 12-month period.
Okay, great. Can you compare that to what the businesses were spending to come up with these candidates in other ways? You know, so, you know, make me want to have this in my business, you know, how I, besides the pool candy, I'm already spending money in other ways, right?
Right, so the question is, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to understand, pitch me, why do I want to do it? Because the pool of candidates for anything, I can FaceTime with people.
Right, no, exactly. So this, what's unique about Go to Interview is that when you have when you need a server or you need a bartender, and that bartender walks out on a Thursday and you have a busy day on a Friday, you can literally go right into our pool of job seekers that have already interviewed or posted a profile video that demonstrates their skill level, their talents, and their motivation to want to work for you. So you can tap into those folks. You know that they're motivated and ready to work because you have an algorithm that shows those candidates that are most motivated and tapping into the system consistently. You can call those people today and have them working tomorrow. We've seen that actually happen where an employer or job seeker completed a video interview profile and video on a Tuesday. She was hired and working just a few years ago.
I appreciate that. So, all right, ready for our next startup? Let's hear it for Welcome to College.
My name is Justin Baer, founder of Welcome to College. And I had a college visit experience that completely changed my life. And I look back on this and I was pretty lucky. I had a guidance counselor that knew me better than I knew myself. And they told me 5 times to go visit a certain school that I had no interest in going to. I went on that visit and I knew that there was something going on there, that this was the school for me. Sadly, for many students, this is not the case. And as you think about this visit experience and what's happening in that first impression, I became passionately curious to figure out what happened on my visit. We launched Welcome to College, and since that time, I've been on over 200 college tours. And there's nothing that frustrates me more when I'm on a college campus and I'm greeted with this guy. This is a real life tweet from a real tour that I was on. You can imagine the experience of families on that visit. And the impact of this attitude cannot be taken lightly, because 1 out of every 3 entering college students does not finish at the school in which they've started, giving up on their potential and costing colleges and families millions of dollars. At Welcome to College, we are creating and helping colleges create experiences that inspire. And we do this by utilizing their clarity of their mission, history, and values. Think about Commander's Palace, your breakfast this morning, or being on that float today. New Orleans does such an amazing job at bringing the history of the city alive through its experiences. That's what we do for colleges. And at Welcome to College, we are serving those 1 million students each year that are choosing the wrong school. And we're doing that because we're helping these colleges give authentic college visits. In addition, we've created a web platform that allows colleges to connect with students via digitally immersive profiles. In addition, we created a real-time data and visit analytics tool that's allowing them to measure and manage everything about the visit real time. We created a way for tour guides to connect with each other pre and post-visit and stay connected. We've built trainings and authentic curriculum to inspire the tour guides. And eventually this summer, we're going to release a mobile app that's going to put this all in the hands of the student to be able to do everything: schedule, evaluate, and connect on their phones. All of this is also built on the back of science. And we've teamed up with right now 40 institutions in 20 different states that are buying into our trademark approach called MARV. And MARV is another word for happiness. MARV stands for meaning, something greater than the self, accomplishment, feeling the joy of getting things done with the grit and resilience to get there, relationships, people that make us better than we know how, and vitality, that feeling fully alive, a combination of positive engagement and emotion. MARV can work for all of us. And when students find MARV, they not only fit, but they're finding schools where they can flourish. In fact, it's working for Welcome to College. It's what brought us to New Orleans. There's no city on this planet that has more MARV than New Orleans. What a beautiful place. And that is the message that we're inspiring students all over the country. Thank you.
Yeah, who's got the first question? Okay. Someone's got to ask a question.
So Justin, I'll start. Thank you for making this more great presentation. Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, you're charging quite a bit of money for what seems to be, I gotta imagine, only a small percentage of students actually end up taking tours before attending their college campuses. Can you talk about either increasing the denominator, bringing more kids, allowing them to see visits, and or really helping the school manage its spend in that category?
Yeah, so the larger packages do include our consulting services. We're doing full-time work on the whole campus visit experience for the schools. That's a lot of travel and time we're spending on the ground in the schools. Our package starts at the 5K level. And in regards to what we do to inspire more kids to visit colleges, we actually do a lot of programs. We have an interactive vehicle that we take throughout the year to programs like Camp Colleges for first-generation college students and get them excited and be thinking about what college can do for them, especially starting as early as freshman year. That's when we believe you should start thinking about the visit. So we've got a whole element in the other side of our business that is focused on inspiring the students across the country to take college visits.
You talk about kind of like an immersive environment on the site of people being able to get like more than a picture or a video or a commercial essentially. Can you give us an example of like what is different about that content?
Right, so we're teaming up with the schools and working with their ambassadors and tour guides to actually supply us real-time good content about what it's like to be a student there. So on our blog, we're featuring tips that you can go to, off campus to experience the local community, or some of the top professors at this school, but we're using the content through our tour guides that we've trained and using that to fill our profile pages with unique content.
So we're on a road trip in Pittsburgh about a company called From.a that's trying to provide some of these resources to consumers. It sounds like you're more an enterprise sale of selling to the schools as opposed to, do you view them as a competitor or a potential partner? How do you see the overall competitive landscape?
I know College From.a well, Luke, is a good friend of mine, and in fact, we've had conversations in regards to potentially a partnership with the data that they're bringing in, especially it's now called niche. And when they transformed the niche, that was a huge opportunity because that kind of falls right in line with the mission of what we do at Welcome to College. So I see it as a partnership opportunity.
How big a business can this be? How big a business?
In the U.S. alone, I think it's around 50 to 75 million, but we are starting to talk to schools internationally. We're talking to a school at the University of West Indies. You put this across the globe, I think it could be well over a $200 million business.
All right, great. Presentation.
We're going to set up our keyboard for a second here. One how do I feel while we do that? Pretty good? Marvelous. See what I did there? Yeah. All right. Are we good? Thumbs up? Ready to rock. Okay. Next up, last but not least, Community Health TV. Let's hear it.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing?
My name
name is Kerry Willis. I am the president and co-founder of Community Health TV. I spent a career in banking and finance, working at Morgan Stanley and private banking, and also at Deutsche Bank. But I wanted to do something different, and it was time for a change. I packed my bags, I moved to New Orleans. Why? Because I'm looking to reduce health disparities using digital media. We are able to do that basically through this company, Community Health TV, a multicultural, multi-platform company, and this is the greatest city to be able to do that in. The health disparities basically in this city are very challenging, so if we can do it here, we can do it across the nation. We actually basically have multicultural verticals. Those multicultural verticals are Black Health TV that we launched today. In addition to that, we're launching LatinoHealthTV.com in the fourth quarter later this year. We produce health video content for the consumer side, but at the same time, we also license content for the corporate market as well. Health insurance companies are seeking diverse content. At the same time, hospitals also are seeking that diverse content. We are the best at communicating with diverse audiences. We create great content. We mix health and entertainment. We call health edutainment. Let me show you something.
A little more volume.
Yes. Hopefully you guys have a chance to do
The test today here.
right? So I want to talk about the opportunity. The opportunity is this. Multicultural populations, as you can see here, 60% of them, they're seeking culturally relevant content. 90% of them feel culturally relevant content is more engaging for them. They watch 6 times more online video than the general population. And lastly, they're 60% more receptive to advertising, and these customers are more brand loyal. Syndication, this is our business model. We actually have developed an embed, and that embed is basically a turnkey solution that we provide to partner sites. What we do is we actually we control the advertising on their pages. We customize the content for every single partner. We leverage every single partner relationship. Every single one of these partners basically have traffic. We ask them to post our content across their platform, basically giving access to millions of users to this particular content. In addition to that, we're able to deliver to advertisers what they're seeking. They're seeking specific health consumers in certain demographic markets, and we can be able to do that. You see the Repeal.com right here. You may or may not know this site, but it's a very large site in the African American community. We actually just signed a deal with them, and in a couple of weeks, when you go to their site, they're taking all of their health content down, and it's going to be health powered by BlackHealthTV.com. Competitive advantage. You'll see WebMD is pretty much the #1 in health, maybe #2. They provide premium content. They got high CPM rates, but they got low page views in terms of the number of page views that are generated by the people that actually go to their site. Interactive One, the #1 in digital. They actually have entertainment-based content where they actually get low CPMs, but they get high engagements because these multicultural users are online searching for traffic, basically searching a lot more often on these particular sites. Community Health TV represents the best of both worlds. Premium health content, high CPMs, and high engagement. Notable clients, as you can see, the Brio. We just signed also the Johnson & Johnson for advertising on the site. Our sales pipeline is some of the largest media companies out here in the U.S. today. And once again, we're looking to power those health channels for those particular partner sites. We're here based in New Orleans.
So great presentation, man. WebMD, Everyday Health, and others are really big media companies with lots of budget and big balance sheets. To make it afford to basically give away a lot of this content for free, how would you compete against that if they just decide to say, you know what, we're going to start giving it away for free?
You know what, they do give it away for free, and their advertising model is advertising based. Ours is the same way, but they are not doing what we're doing. We have a list of 100 sites in the African American community, 300 sites in the Latino community. We're going to each one of these sites. We're saying to them, we can reduce your cost. You don't have to create any content at all, basically by providing them with an embed. For example, perfect situation. You go to a site like essence.com. Believe it or not, you click on health, they may have 60, maybe 70 health articles. when we partner with these sites, we provide them with hundreds of videos, hundreds of articles, and they don't have to produce any content at all. And we provide revenue share opportunities for them as well.
And what are your content costs? Just how do you think about producing some of this content?
And that was one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm here in New Orleans. New Orleans is the Hollywood of the South. And my partner is a co-founder, Dr. Corey there with WDSU, a local position here, and an LSU position also at the same time. We use New Orleans studios. Our cost is about roughly between $300 to $500 per day.
So the people are more engaged in the videos on WebMD because it's more diverse content and better content, is what you're saying?
WebMD doesn't, from what I've seen, they have no diverse content. We actually are working with medical schools, we're working with other physicians, multicultural physicians, and putting them in the studio with our actually scripts and actually having them be able to produce that content. So, and it's more engaging than what they traditionally see in terms of the talking head just on a traditional site.
I applaud what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
All right, well, great job. Welcome to the Hollywood South.
Okay, so next level startups, you're going to do share on. We're going to share one more time with our judges. They're going to go behind and deliver. Let's hear it for our judges. All right. And we're going to come to a decision. And in the meantime, you have a, which is kind of fun. I've been coming up with some things to talk about. Well, actually, before we do that, let's hear it for our startup one more time. You're pretty amazing. All right, so thank you for singing that happy birthday to me too. That was pretty nice. I appreciate that. I don't remember the last time that happened on my 27th birthday again. So it's good to be 27 again. And here, someone actually on the way here, I heard from somebody on our team that it's kind of a tradition on your birthday to wear like a, I don't know if it's true, a pin, and you put a dollar on it or two. Is this true? Have you heard of this? It's true. Okay, I gotta get a pin now. Then put it on, and what happened? You collect money on it? Is that? Wow. Sounds like I'm raising another round of funding. Sounds like a good opportunity. All right, so anything else you suggest on your birthday? Like, what do you do out in New Orleans? Any other ideas? Nothing really happening? No great music? Hey? Oh, okay. Let's go back to that theme. I found this theme going around. We've gone now from place to place, and I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of thought leaders, a lot of folks that are building community here. It's kind of funny actually that there's I started a company called Tech Cocktail. We just rebranded as Tech.co. We still have that media brand Tech Cocktail with your events, right? Where you literally have cocktails, which we will get to in a minute. We're just waiting for the final count here. We're not going to quite go out there yet. We're going to stay in here. When I say that, I mean it. Seriously. I don't know why I just opened the doors. That was not a good idea. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. I saw this theme, like literally, like we're talking about my startup, but every once in a while there'd be a story about, well, then we decided all go meet up at the bar and we think about it and come to a conclusion. So I've seen this theme of cocktails kind of flying through as a great way to make decisions. So I don't know if that's true. Can anybody validate that? Yes, okay, we got one. So definitely we'll have to try that tonight. All right, so we're going to, afterwards, so you know what's happening, we're going to have the judges come out here. They're going to have a large check, larger than you can probably take to a bank. And it's going to be for $100,000. We're going to announce the winner. And I want you guys to really, really, really raise the roof. I mean, this is a beautiful venue, right? Like we want, yeah. And not to say that I haven't been in good venues. This is probably the nicest venue that I've been in a week, really. We've been on the road, but this is brand new. Look at this. Gorgeous wood, nice woodworking. We want to kind of rattle the new kind of out of it, though. That's what we're going to do. So when they start up gets, presented with this check, I want to hear it. I want to go all up and just give them a heck of a holler, if you would. All right, I hear a little bit of chatter, which is okay. I'm not too offended by it. Thank you. Some of you are getting my dry sense of humor. I appreciate that. So anyway, what I was going to get at is after we announce that we're going to cheer, and then they're going to do the photo shoot. Basically a photo shoot on the stage, which can be kind of it can be a little awkward. So I'm going to need you to continue to cheer through that because you don't want them to stand up here and very quiet here while you all look at them taking pictures. That's just weird. So I need you to cheer for a little bit, and then we're going to use all that energy up, and then we're going to quench our thirst outside here as we have some cocktails. How does that sound? Yeah. Okay. And thank you again. I made $1. That's pretty interesting. Already well above my favorite. Okay, so what else do you guys want to talk about? You have a pretty good quarterback here down here. Is that right? Oh, there's a couple of. Do you like it? Is that a question? I'm a Bears fan. Come on, I love it. Okay. I don't want to talk about it. I get it. All right. If you can hear me in the back, just say. Yeah. Works every time. How many of you tweeted something today about this rise of rest? Yeah, we're trying to get it to trend. So if you haven't, we want to make sure people know that there's stuff happening here in New Orleans. So if you can, and you have some kind of mobile device, take it out and you can tweet about what's happening, or you can wait till this photo op is kind of up and you can tweet about that too. All right. So I didn't bring the instruments today. Usually I do bring a ukulele or some kind of other stringing instrument. But today we decided not to. But you have a great audience, and I see that there's a selfie happening. That's going to go on the internet. And to be honest, we probably wouldn't be on the internet the way we are if it wasn't for Mr. DK, so that's pretty awesome. Oh, you want to? Okay, so how many people have found me on Twitter and like, who is this random guy on stage? Yeah? Okay, Frank Gruber rhymes with Uber. So Frank Gruber. Got it? Okay, now you can I'll look at it and figure out who I am. Frank rhymes with tank, so you'll never forget that. And Gruber rhymes with Uber. But I came first. All right, so okay. Yeah, actually I've got a special guest here. He's coming at you from San Francisco. So if you could all just, yeah, there we go. Special. Luke, thanks for joining me on stage today.
Thank you. I don't know if it's special, but anyway, what an honor to be here after an event like today. So my name is Ludovic Lorraine. I work with Salesforce. I was very impressed today. So New Orleans all the way, very, very impressed. I was lucky enough, yeah. Even that, I'll be honest. I was lucky enough to be on the bus with Stephen the crew and you, Frank, and the others, and that's really like I think I'm going to vote the best way. So that's great. I'm very impressed. Well, I met actually a colleague of mine 3 years ago. Decided to volunteer in New Orleans. I decided to move from California to here. She's right there. So another example of how attractive New Orleans can be. With that, it might be a little bit unfair because you didn't catch it. I'm actually French, so there's something special for me here in New Orleans. In fact, I was at Jazz Fest last weekend with my wife and some friends, and I might have discovered the secret of this town, right? You say it with an interesting accent, like you say the bon roulé. So they say, with your accent, you say the bon roulé, so guys. And it might be the magic, right? Work hard and play hard. We saw that this afternoon, and we remember that parade, that flow this afternoon, so that's really awesome to see. So amazing town, amazing artistic town, amazing musical town, amazing entrepreneurs, amazing pitch. So with that, again, congratulations to all the team. And let's go over to Steve and the judges. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, we decided that pretty quickly because we know that a happy hour thing is about to happen, and that's kind of a big deal here in New Orleans. I go around the country saying the secret sauce that drives America's success is entrepreneurship. I figured I'd hear the secret sauce that drives. Good. It's clear just being your day that the secret sauce that drives New Orleans entrepreneurship is the sauce, and we want to make sure. We want to make sure we can continue to build the community here, the startup community, by the happy hour. Before we announce the winners, I just want to say this has been a fabulous day. It's been an inspiring day. It's a great way to end this Rise the Rest trip. It's sort of we did say the best for last. Go to an awesome city. And some of the things we talked about earlier about how this community really has come together now for nearly 300 years. It's certainly how this community rallied in the last 10 years after Katrina really bodes well. So everybody here continues to focus on strengthening the startup community and focus on doing it in an inclusive way with some of these social enterprises that really do have the potential to change the world. Awesome. The other thing that's great about these presentations, because I've seen obviously a lot of different pitch competitions in a lot of different cities, was the diversity of the different pitches. We talked about plants, we talked about jobs, we talked about health, we talked about art, we talked about media, we talked about Internet of Things, all kinds of different companies, which also shows the vitality of the startup scene. So, even though they're all great, we're going to the big one. And the winner of the Rise of the Rest competition in this particular city called New Orleans is Go To Interview.
Me too. You just seem the most confident, most excited at the same time. For everybody rather than just a certain group of people.
All right, here is my winner.
Thank you for showcasing entrepreneurs in this town. I am so excited to be a part of the entrepreneurial community here. I'm not from here, but I went to school here, I went away, and I came back, and I'm here to stay. And I wanted to thank our team who's in the room here as well. Most especially, I want to thank, this is important to hold. Most importantly, I want to thank Howard Nola as well as to showcase our talents and our skills. I am so grateful for this. You guys have no idea